Hey YouTube, it's Eric the Welder. It's been a very long time since I've made a video. I'm talking probably years, but been real busy and just thought I would take a second here while I had some downtime to talk about suitcase welders and I guess the joy of suitcase welders. It's something that it's very useful to have, but as a welder, depending on what discipline of welder you are, whether it be a pipe welder or hobbyist or auto body shop, the suitcase welder is something that you may not run into. But on the other hand, from structural steel shipyards, there's some people that put a lot of time into these, and a very common complaint and a very common issue is just the overall. There's some maintenance, and there's just overall a lot of moving parts to a suitcase welder, and there's just a combination of things that all have to be running pretty well for in order for you to use this welder and with any kind of with any kind of production and any kind of quality. And it starts with the whip here. You got your diffuser and your tip. And that's if you have a junk tip, it affects how the welder is running, and then your liner that goes through the whole whip. There's issues with that can cause you to not have a good operating machine. And then you get into some of the parts inside, your rollers, and the issue that I have in particular right now, which I'm trying to correct, and I'm hoping it's the issue, is that you have these two guides on this particular machine. This is your input to the rollers, and that guides the wire into the rollers evenly. And then I took it out. I'm working on it right now, but you'll have your output guide, which guides the wire into your liner. And what it is, it's got a slight taper on it, and it accepts usually between 035 and 045 wire. And what happens is that as your spool goes through the rollers, you got some teeth on these rollers that kind of grip down onto the wire and guide it through the liner. But as the teeth grab onto that wire, there's some small indentations. I don't know if my camera will pick it up or not, but those indentations cause some friction on this. Is just a copper guide here, and what it does is it grinds a groove into this guide here. And I'm in the process. It's not really going to focus, I don't think. But anyway, if you could picture this taper, and as the wire goes into it, it kind of eats away at that copper, leaving a groove. And when that wire gets into that groove, it causes an interruption into the feed rate. And, as you know, if you're wire feeding, you want a constant feed rate because you base your voltage, your heat on that feed rate. So if you have a varying feed rate, you're not going to have this nice consistent puddle. It's going to be spattery and consistent. And what I'm running into now is the wire will actually stop briefly until I straighten out my whip or and do some kind of movement to free that wire through the liner. So I'm banking on that. It's this little guide here, and it's got some grooves in it. So right now I got it in the drill press, kind of a makeshift lathe right here, and I'm just gonna kind of take down that taper until I get into some better material and put it back in and see if it works. So it's just, boils down to, all the pieces that have to be in order for you to, put out a good puddle with some of these machines. And, typically everyone wants to go right to the liner, that it's a junk liner. And, that's, sometimes that's really what it is. But, it's just, you have to take into consideration so many factors. And that even goes as far as, if you got moisture in your steel, preheating could eliminate some of the problems you're having. Just the cleanliness of some of the material. And then another issue which is not often taken into consideration, but I have seen it a factor. As you burn your wire, you start as a 40-pound spool. When you get down to, there ain't much left on this one, your machine doesn't have to work as hard to spool this wire. And I've seen just, very subtle differences because, the more you run it, you'll know exactly when it's fine-tuned and it's running like a top. And just a little bit of difference in weight as the spool spools down can change your puddle just slightly, but, it's enough to notice if you do it long enough. And I just, it's discouraging sometimes because you got to put the time in to know how all these work and all the different things that can go wrong. And but just, don't get discouraged. And I'm just trying to shed some light on maybe an issue that, a machine might be running into that, it might be a quick fix if you knew where to look. So anyway, I hope someone got just a little something out of this video, and we'll catch up with you guys later. We'll see ya.